Well, hello Internet and welcome to part 5 of my Adobe Illustrator tutorial series, definitely my most popular series, period. Today what I'm going to do is answer a whole bunch of your questions, mainly through one big giant tutorial in which I'm going to show you how to make a snowflake inside of Illustrator. It actually will allow me to use a lot of tools that you guys seem to be interested in. Well, the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm just going to draw a basic rectangle shape right here on the screen. And then, with it selected still, I'm going to come over here to Object, I'm going to come down to Path, and I'm going to come down here to Add Anchor Points. And what that's going to do is add anchor points in a bunch of different locations, pretty much in the middle of all of your current anchor points that you have on your screen. I'm going to allow this one down here to be flat, and I'm going to grab this guy and just drag him up an arbitrary level. Then I can come in here and individually delete any of these anchor points just by coming over to the pen tool and getting the delete anchor point tool, clicking on that, and clicking on that. But first what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get a copy of this guy, and as I drag it, I'm going to hold down the Alt key so I can make a copy of it. And then just to make everything here real quick, also you can delete anchor points, of course, by just selecting them with this direct selection tool that's over here, which shortcut for it is A, and then a shortcut for the main selection tool, which selects all your paths at once, is V. And I'm going to be using that throughout the rest of the tutorial to speed everything up here a little bit. Pen tool, also, the shortcut for that is P, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to join these paths right like that. So now this is one complete path. I'm also going to come in here, grab this path, direct selection tool, and this is going to be the basis of what I'm going to use to create a snowflake type design. This is kind of a quick and dirty snowflake, but what it's going to do is it's going to teach a whole bunch of different things. So then I'm going to come in here, this direct selection tool, I'm going to shrink this one down, right like that. And then I'm going to take this guy, copy paste, shrink this guy down, and then at the same time, I'm going to click on R, and then I'm going to actually twist this guy at a 45-degree angle. Come in here right like that, and I'm going to scale this out. Take it, move it down a little bit. And just to make it simple, I'm going to bring this guy in here, flatten this out a little bit, right like that. And then, again, I'm going to hold it, hold down my Alt key, and drag this up here. Then I'm going to hit my E on my keyboard and shrink this down with the free transform tool. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this gigantic snowflake type little guy here. I'm going to shrink him way, way, way down. And I'm going to turn him at a 45-degree angle. So again, hit E for free transform. And I'm going to drag this guy up here, right like that. Now what I'd like to do here, and of course I can do it, I'm not just going to like to do it. I'd like this to follow down the path of this snowflake we're creating right here, this black snowflake, and at the same time shrink as it's going along. How exactly would I do that? Well, it's a tool that a lot of people do not use, and it's available up here in Effect. And if you scroll down to Distort and Transform and come to the Transform tool right there. But before we do that, I'm going to make a copy of this and paste it. Okay, so we're going to select it, hit Effect, Transform, and then we're going to click on Transform right here. And what this guy allows you to do is exactly what I want it to do. If I want to create multiple different versions and then shrink them as they grow, well, let's first come in here to Move. And just click inside here and also click preview first off and then just increase it. And it's going to move it down the snowflake for you to a certain point. And then I'm going to click on vertical and I'm going to press down on the arrow key so that it also will come up. And then you can sort of tweak these little guys back and forth until you get them to a good distance for you. Again, this is art. Alright, super. So we got this moving away and there's a space in between there. It's going to help me with my creation of my snowflake. Well, I also want to scale it. So let's say that we want to take it down to 80% horizontally and 80% vertically. Okay, you can see that that's going on, but this is whenever it gets really fun. We're going to come in here to copy and we can increase these guys as they go down the length of our snowflake. And as we're doing this, we might decide, that we want this guy to go down a little bit and then this to go up a little bit. And then we could also make sure that it connects to the baseline of this other snowflake instead of just drifting off into nowhere by clicking here. I want to zoom in so you can see it on this little matrixy sort of thing. And that way it'll stay locked in place real nice like. And then we can continue making additional copies of the snowflake as we like. Maybe we decide we only want to take this down to 90%. Okay, and then you just hit OK, and you can see there that it went in there and it drew in my snowflake exactly like I wanted it to. Now, let's go and take this guy, copy, paste, and put him across the bottom. Then we come into Effect, Distort and Transform, right like that. And we can try out 90 again. This time we want to align to the top with the little matrixy sort of thing right there. And then we'll come in here and make some additional copies. And all I'm doing is hitting up and down on my arrow keys to change these guys right on the fly. And then I'm going to come up here and make additional copies just by hitting up on the arrow keys. Okay, now we're starting to get what we want. Super. So let's say we want to transpose this up to here. Well, we just click on it, hold down Alt, and drag the little guy up here and put him in place. And then we can do the same thing. Hold on to here, hold down Alt, and move it up. And if we want to change this effect, this is another tool that a lot of people do not use for some reason. Click on Window and Appearance. You can actually see over here on the side your transformation that you made and make individual changes. And we're going to be using this and playing around with this later on in the tutorial as well. But let's say I want to change that transform to decrease the number of copies. Easy enough. Just come in here, preview, and take away any additional ones that you don't want. Hit OK. Click on this guy. Click on Transform. I'll do the same thing again. First hit Preview, and then take away all those extra little nasties that we don't want inside of there. Okay, so that's the first part of our snowflake type design. Of course, you can make this a lot more complicated. I'm making this pretty simple. Okay, so now let's say we want to create the other side of the snowflake. How do we do that? We're going to select everything. We're going to hit Object. We're going to hit Group. Then we're going to come into our Effect, our Transform again. Click on this guy, and then hit Preview. We're going to click on Reflect X, and we're going to click on this little matrixy thing right there. And these two guys are going to line themselves up real nicely. And if we come in here and click one copy, there we created our first arm of our snowflake. Well, now we got to create a whole bunch more of these guys. Come in here, and we're going to come in, and, of course, and go Effect, Distort and Transform. Click on the Transform, and it's going to give you a warning saying, do you really want to do this? Just say yes. Apply New Effect. And then what we're going to do is click on Preview, of course, and we're going to change the angle on this. 30. I'm going to come down there and put the guy right there. And then we can come in and make additional little blocks just by clicking up on our arrow key. And you can see just like that, we made a pretty interesting, completely crazy looking snowflake design. Okay, so you say, but snowflakes are not black. Not a problem. So let's come in here and we'll select this guy and we're going to change it. Let's have it be a real light bluish color. All right, that's kind of pretty looking. And we'll scroll or throw this little snowflake out of the way. And we can also delete this one and delete this one now that we have our snowflake all nicely drawn. And then we'll come in here and let's say I want to make this like a bluish type shape. Right like this. I'm going to click on my gradient tool that I have over here. And a lot of you guys seem to have some trouble with gradients. I'm going to get more into them later on. Let's say we want to take this guy and rotate him and also grab this endpoint and drag this out here and just do some randomness. Now we'll just do that right like this. And this is a radial blur, by the way. And then we can come in, grab Mr. Snowflake, drag him over here. Object, Arrange, bring to front, right like that. Click on E. And then we could scroll Mr. Snowflake down. So let's say I want to go and I want to actually create a different outline. First, let's make this guy white, just to simplify the whole thing. Okay, so we want to create a stroke outline for this. Well, I can come in here to this part, and let's say I want to make it a cyan and a little bit darker. And you can see here on the screen it's getting all mangled, but don't worry about that. And I'm making this a blue or bluish color. Let's take the cyan the whole way to the top. Well, it's kind of an interesting looking pattern that we created here, but what I want to do is actually make this stroke go on the outside. But one thing I can do to keep this stroke from looking all mangled up is to actually copy it, and then I'm actually going to paste that in back. And then I'm going to come back out here, grab this guy, and then take that stroke away. And I can also come in here. Let's say I select that, and I select this guy right here. And I can come in here and enlarge the stroke here on the screen, right like that. And then we could increase the stroke on the version of the snowflake that lies underneath. And another thing that might look interesting here on the screen is if we come into Effect again and go to Stylize and Drop Shadow. And of course you might want to preview this. And you can see that we threw a nice little drop shadow behind our snowflake, which makes it look even nicer yet. Of course, you have to wait for that edit to go through. So there's some neat little tricks you can do inside of Adobe Illustrator to make a pretty looking snowflake shape. Okay, so I showed you how to make something kind of pretty and cute. So now to offset that overall cuteness, I'm going to show you how to make something kind of grungy and nasty. And I'll make all of these files available on my website if you want to download this cute little snowflake. Let's grab this little snowflake and get rid of it. And now I'm I'm going to show you how to do something really, really cool with text that you guys probably don't know about. Okay, so let's come in here and let's type a word like grunge. And I'm using Myriad Pro, which isn't a very grungy sort of font, but it's going to get grungy really, really fast. Alright, so let's choose a color that's more grungy. So I'm thinking like a greenish, nasty brownish. Alright, I kind of like that color. So we got our green grunge. Now how are we going to grunge it up? Well, you're going to see over here in your brushes panel, you're going to see some brushes here you've probably never seen before. And by the way, you can access all these brushes by clicking right here and then go into Open Brush Library. And there is actually something called grunge, and you can see it, and I transported some of those guys over here already. And as well, there's some other interesting looking things, and if you want to take any of these and save them for another time maybe, just drag them over here and drop them into your brush library that you have right here. And close that up. Now for the neat part. Okay, so I got my text selected, and let's say I want to add a stroke to it that is going to be editable, that is going to allow me to add these brush strokes to the outside of it to make this look really cool. How do I do that? Again, come over to the Appearance tool. I'm going to zoom in here and come down here to this button, and that will create a new stroke for you. And let's choose a grungy type of color for this new guy. Pink is not grungy. Maybe like this orangey sort of color right here. Sort of just going by ear. Now, since I have this stroke created here, I can come in and click on this brush, and automatically it's going to throw this new brush stroke over top of it. It's going to outline it with this grungy sort of thing. And you can also use this to create pretty things, of course. And let's say that you want to continue to make this look grungy. All you do is come in and create another stroke. And then this time, let's say we make this a greenish type color for our new stroke. And there you go. And then you could become more extreme with it. Maybe click on this guy right here, which is maybe a little bit too much for you. If it is, no problem. Just come in here to the opacity area over here in Appearance and click on that. And let's say we want to drag our opacity down to say 45%. Now you can get your grungy type text right here. And what is really, really cool about this is editable text. So let's say I wanted to type in psycho instead. I can. And I did not have to outline this text. It is totally editable text. So there is another really cool thing you can do inside of Illustrator. And for the final thing, I'm just going to show you, this also is a neat trick you can do with the Appearance tool. Let's say you want to create automatically editable fills behind text that automatically resize themselves based off the text that you input. Okay, no problem. So we're going to click on here. It's like this a light, and let's make this instead of black, like a light bluish color. Well, you can also add fills inside of the Appearance tool, and we're going to do that right like that. I just added a fill inside of there, and then you can come in here, the effect area, and then if you click on Convert to Shape and choose Rounded Rectangle and click OK on it right like that, you have text that is surrounded by a rounded rectangle, and this text is going to also be completely editable, and it will automatically, just to make sure you can see it, I'm going to change this to white, it'll automatically resize as you type. So there are a bunch of neat little things you can do with Adobe Illustrator. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Till next time.